Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogens. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Monday, the most important day of the week. It's Monday, July 17th, and today is National Peach Ice Cream Day. It's also the day for International Criminal Justice, National Tattoo Day, National Yellow Pig Day, which I have no clue what that actually means. I think it has to do with your piggy banks. It's also World Emoji Day, so make sure you get some emojis out in your text messages, everybody. And it's National Get Out of the Doghouse Day, Mathieu St. Germain. And it's National Wrong Corrigan Day, which I have no clue again. And it's National Lottery Day. So make sure you go out and buy a ticket, even though we don't have a national lottery. But thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to see where we live at the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube. And not only on Twitter Spaces, but Twitter is not allowing me to open up a Twitter Space, so we're not going to be there today. So without further ado, we are going to kick it off with the dope dad himself. That's right. It's Rico Lamitte, looking super, super fresh and clean like he had a restful weekend. He's the master flip-flopper and the dope dad himself. That's right. It is Rico Lamitte.
I've got no applause. I don't need it. Well rested. Well rested, not really. Thank you, Jason. My story today is going to ruffle some feathers, and I cannot wait. Because why? We're going to be talking about reparations. The word Republicans who hate paying debts hate the most, but also a whole lot more appropriate conversations to have than promising Black people licenses to long shot businesses. Let's talk about Evanston, Illinois. It's the hometown of my alma mater, Northwestern University, and it has become the first to start paying reparations qualifying Black residents in what some are calling a test run for the entire country. The Chicago suburbs already paid 16 locals from a $10 million pot first approved in 2019, but by the end of the year, the city's reparations committee expects to have paid $25,000 each to 140. It's a whole lot of people. 140 qualifying residents. Justin Hansford, head of the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center in Howard University, said he sees it as a test run for the entire country. For the article, qualifying residents had to be at least 18 and living in the city between 1919 and 1969 when the city passed a fair housing ordinance, the infamous measure that deprived many Black Chicago residents of home ownership due to redlining and other forms of outright institutional racism. Evanston's $10 million fund was initially supposed to come all from tax cash and revenue produced by legal cannabis sales, but Chicagoland's slow rollout of licenses proved too slow, leading the rest of it to be paid out from real estate transfer tax money from properties worth more than $1 million. It was also approved by the city council. So reparation is going to be paid out by weed and the wealthy. I like it. Even though just under $1.2 million has been gathered for reparations, Evanston's Mayor Daniel Bliss said that the city is not concerned over whether reparations are paid out elsewhere, including the federal level. Our job here is to move forward and continue being that example, to continue illustrating that a small municipality can make real tangible progress, and the city will move forward and continue being that example no matter what the rest of the U.S. does. Wish I had my applause there. That's how you do it. That's leadership. The payout, however, is a number far too little for critics like local civil rights activist Bennett Johnson. In a recent town hall meeting, Johnson said $25,000 was not enough and called the 1969 cutoff year totally arbitrary, given Black people were discriminated against long after that. He has a point on both. Kenneth Weidman, the ineligible Evanston resident and 77-year-old Vietnam vet, rightfully told the Journal that we have not received real reparations, the 40 acres and a mule we were promised. But not everyone was completely dissatisfied. Ramona Burton, 74 years old, who used her $25,000 to upgrade the home she's lived in since the 70s and called it's a good start, better than a blank, I guess. I know reparations is not the most popular thing or most popular path to making Black people whole on the nation's debts owed and to help right at least some of the wrongs levied on Black communities, both past and present. But things haven't gotten better, and the societal opportunity gap as a result between Americans is at an all-time high. I've always said it, that if you want us to stop complaining about the obvious injustices that seem to go down regularly to no end, it won't take much. Just cut us the damn checks. If y'all can pull trillions of dollars out of nowhere to pay stimulus checks and wars that we're technically not in, y'all can run us our motherfucking money and let our communities thrive on our own so we don't have to complain about being discriminated at this business or that business. As far as using funds derived from cannabis revenue to support folks not looking to get into the industry, it's a little more complicated there for me. And I think it's the social equity program, though, that would satisfy a lot more folks than what we've seen so far. But I'm interested in hearing what the rest of the team says about this one. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street. Let's get it.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I just can't believe this is what they did with their tax revenue. Their cannabis tax revenue. That this is what they're doing with it.
Well, what's wrong with that, Jason Beck?
I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised it's the first municipality to do this with their tax revenue. It's the first time I've seen this. Like, I even texted Rico before the show. I was like, bro, what does your story have to do with cannabis? He's like, bro, that they use the money from their cannabis taxes to give this money away.
Well, and my reading of the story was the tax money from cannabis didn't come in fast enough, so they did find the money from somewhere else. But it was originally set aside that this was supposed to be tax revenue from cannabis. Mm-hmm. I agree with Rico in one regard, that I think this is a better use of money than social equity licenses.
I agree with that part.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see how this goes, and I think everybody's just taking a shot in the dark and trying to figure out a plan, and this is an interesting route for sure.
So, does anyone think that any other super woke cities are going to do this as well?
Super woke. Define super woke. What is super woke, Jason?
Super woke, bro. I mean, Evanston, Illinois sounds like they're a super woke city to me.
It's definitely a wait and see moment.
Mm-hmm. I want to see like a real big.
There's a lot of super woke out there in California, and you guys are the ones who've been talking most loudly about reparations.
Love to say that word, but
that was actually
funny. You guys
Gavin
love to say
Newsom.
that word, but nobody can actually define it. Like Rico just asked Jason to define it, and it was a little bit of word salad. And then we move on. Like let's just talk about the fact that
let me tell you something. If you don't know what it is,
was built on the backs of Black citizens who worked as slaves in the fields and were beaten or forced to breed with each other against each other's will. Children were taken from them at near infancy. And why is it such a crazy woke idea to repay the hard work and the theft that happened over the last 500 years?
That was promised. The 40 acres and a mule never came.
Okay, well, let's simmer down there, because if you look at why they gave this money, it's for people from 1919 to 1969. They don't seem to be referencing slavery as the reason for paying out these reparations. It appears to be civil rights injustices in Illinois.
No, and that's why their civil rights leader, said, this is not enough. The Vietnam vet said, "This is not the 40 acres and a mule that I was promised." But like the woman said, it's better than a blank.
Well, I mean, I mean, if they keep on voting for Democrats, they got the mule, so they just need the 40 acres.
Keep on voting for Republicans, won't get shit, right?
I mean, I think you'll get more. I think you get more. I think you would get more, other than broken promises. Because what you were referencing earlier, Gretchen. Hold on. Let me speak. What you were referencing earlier, Gretchen, was Gavin Newsom's plan to give everyone in San Francisco or whatever reparations. Or maybe it was just a San Francisco plan. I just know Gavin was talking about it. But they already canceled that plan.
5 million a person or something.
Yeah, 5 million.
Quite a larger number. Quite a large number.
Yeah,
which adjusted for inflation is right on par with what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
We're literally talking about. We're talking about.
That's not even including interest, which should be incurred as well.
Oh, boy.
We're talking about
I think-
hundreds of years of labor. We're talking about hundreds of years of labor by thousands and thousands of people. Think about that.
Well, what I'm thinking about, Mathieu St. Germain, is how do you decide who gets the money?
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of people who came here after slavery. There's plenty of white people who also came here after slavery. Do they have to pay into this? I mean, how do you make those distinctions? And that's what I think is holding up a lot of the questions on the reparation side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Is
I think
who
those are-
really
I think
has
those
to
are
pay
valid
and how much
questions.
to be paid.
I think those are valid questions, and we need to continue to discuss them to find an answer. I might not myself have the answer. I'm not the smartest guy here on the panel. But I know that we do need to continue to discuss this, and just to rebuff it and say, like, let's all move on. It doesn't really stop or change the facts on the street. And if you guys look, like, the reason there's all these smash and grab robberies at dispensaries, the reason they're running into Louis Vuitton, folks are running into Louis Vuitton stores and stealing everything on the shelves, is like there's no opportunity, there's no economic opportunity, there's no educational opportunity. We're either going to just continue to devolve further and further into a third world, chaotic, anarchic state. We're going to start realizing, like I was saying last week, this system is not working, serving the people who live in this country. We can just hide our head in the sand until we all have private security guards. We can start just admitting that the system isn't working and start having discussions, try to fix it.
Well,
my opinion.
So I agree with you in the fact that there is a lack of opportunity for different people, but another reason for all of this crime at the same time is these DAs and that aren't prosecuting any crime. There is no real punishment for smash and grab robberies. First time offense, you get probation. Second time, you get like a month or two. Like there is no real punishment for any of this.
You're attacking the symptom.
Thank you.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Not the cause. No, it's not the
obvious. I agree that there's a lack. There's a lack of. I agree that there's a lack of opportunity. I agree with that.
You wouldn't need any of the heavy-handed enforcement if people had opportunity. They wouldn't find themselves doing a lot of the things that you're creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist for.
Okay, can we bring it back around to the bigger question that started this? Is should cannabis be the revenue source to pay this stuff off? I think now here's my one concern, speaking as a Republican who understands less woke, whatever you want to call them, less out there guys. If you make this about reparations, since Republicans have been traditionally getting on board with this because of tax revenue and money going to education and to all sorts of other things, if you make it about money going to reparations, does that dry up the right support of cannabis legalization?
I think it will. I think they should do the carbon tax is how they should pay for reparations, is with a carbon tax.
I think it's an easy way for them to skirt the issue of social equity being unconstitutional on a federal level. Social equity is not going to be it's not going to be constitutional on a federal level. And so if you use the tax revenue to right the wrongs, I think that's an easy way to remedy that problem, because a lot of people are going to be pissed off, and a lot of people, it's going to be a lot of hell to be paid for all these even more broken promises on a state level once interstate commerce goes into play.
I think people are just always looking for a reason to be pissed off in the first place, though.
It does feel that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you know what? If you don't give people a reason to be pissed off, maybe they won't be pissed off. I'm speaking for the Black community right now in that particular instance.
All right. Well, on that, we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Up next, y'all know him as the industry's longest continuously operating retailer and also the man known for smoking the best weed in the world and cannot define woke.
I don't need to define woke. Oh, you guys are funny. You guys are funny today. Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what. You know, there's some weird things going on, and all this talk about protecting the kids to me is just getting a little bit more ridiculous, and this story just proves it. Because Missouri extends the grace period for marijuana plain packaging rules meant to protect children. That's right. Less than a year after adult use cannabis first hit the shelves in Missouri, the state is cracking down on how appealing cannabis product packaging can be. New rules governing the number and types of colors, symbols, and text that can be displayed on cannabis products go into effect next year. The deadline now is set for January 31st of 2024, which was extended from the original date of July 30th to give manufacturers and dispensaries a longer grace period to sell existing products. Missourians voted in favor of the constitutional amendment that legalized adult use cannabis in November of 2022, and cannabis products became adult use available in dispensaries as of February. The amendment included language stating that cannabis and cannabis-infused products should not be attractive to children or manufactured in shapes or packages that are easily confused with commercially sold candy that does not contain cannabis. The amendment allows the Department of Health and Human Services to expand on these regulations throughout March. DHSS received more than 800 public comments suggesting changes to the regulations, which were taken into account for the new and final rules. DHSS new rules limits packaging to one primary package color and up to two logos or symbols that can be of different colors. These logos or symbols cannot be larger than a clearly printed word like cannabis in black or white text. And additionally, the following warning should be printed on all marijuana products. Cognitive and physical impairment may result from the use of marijuana. Keep out of the reach of children. Any violation of these rules may result in a penalty of up to $5,000, and Missouri's decision to implement stricter packaging rules for cannabis products, according to DHSS, is for safety of the children, they say. The Missouri Poison Control Center has collected data on the number of cannabis-induced poisonings in children since 2015, which has steadily increased. Amanda Ruback, community outreach coordinator, told the news later that the number of these poisonings has risen four in 215 to 125 in 2022 for the children under the age of 5. Ruback said most cannabis-infused poisonings reports are related to edible products like cookies and gummies. She added that 34% of the reported poisoning involved 2-year-old children who are in their prime exploration stage, she says. The number of reported poisonings started to double year after year in 2019 when the medical cannabis became available in Missouri, and Ruback said she expects the data from this year to be the most telling with the legalization of adult use cannabis. This year already, the number of reported poisonings has been in double digits each month, with 23 reports in April. Ruback said in comparison, there were 9 reports in April of 2022. And several other states have legalized adult use cannabis, have stricter regulations for product packaging, and Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey are among states implementing plain packaging, according to the Network for Public Health law. What these regulators look like differs by state, and Connecticut requires packages to be uniformly one color, with edible marijuana products in completely white packaging, and Massachusetts requires packaging to be plain with no bright colors, and New Jersey requires single color packaging with no logos or symbols or different colors, and yada, yada, yada. It just keeps going on and on and on, and you can read the full article over at our website at www.highat9news.com. But I'm going to digress and see what the rest of my fellow correspondents have to say about this, because I know I have some thoughts on this as well. What do y'all have to say?
Well, what I would say is that they're attempting, right, to create a comfort zone, I guess, if you will, for people. At the end of the day, ultimately comes down to our parents or individuals storing their cannabis properly and safely. I don't know that any sort of packaging really is going to make a huge deterrence of a difference. I mean, when you think about, one symbol or two symbols on the package, it doesn't matter. A piece of candy looks like a piece of candy at the end of the day. And are you storing that away? Are you having a dialogue with your child and explaining to them that this is not for you?
Mm-hmm.
You are not allowed to have this. Do not touch this.
Yeah.
If you're not having that conversation and you're just hiding your stuff around your house, you're asking for trouble, because lack of transparency creates more lack of transparency. When your kid finds your stash, they're not going to come to you and say, "What is this?" They're going to be more secretive with it. So just rip the secret out. Be really transparent with your kids, folks. And all of these extra special warnings on the package, a liquor bottle, don't stop a teenager from picking it up and taking it to a party. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Canada does that, right? It has the opaque packaging.
Yeah, everything just is in white packaging with black letters and whatnot. And I just feel like this isn't really to save the kids. I think they're using the kids as a scapegoat for this type of change. I think what this is really for is for law enforcement, for law enforcement to be able to identify what is actually legal product, and then that way they are quicker to be able to identify trap product. That's what I think.
The Save the Children mantra is pretty much the go-to Republican playbook, right, nowadays.
I mean, it's go-to Democrat playbook too. Don't get it twisted.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, when Republicans want to have some kind of heavy-handed regulation on anything, they're like, "Oh, it's to save the children."
I don't think
I'm not
this
buying
needs
that.
to turn into
You're not buying that?
political issue, Rico. I think, and Mandy, to your argument, to me, the way I read this more for young children. I don't read this as a precautionary thing for teens. Yes, you should have those conversations with teens, but I think it's more about a small child. In my reading of what they're trying to do, a small child finding a colorful package and then getting into it.
Yeah, but a child's not looking for all that. A child is looking to get anything that they can get their hands on, and if it is in the reach of them, they're going to grab it, whether it's a colorful package, a white package, or any of that.
No, I disagree. I mean, when they bring up like kids eating Tide Pods and all that stuff, it's because it was
kids eat Tide Pods because it's trending on YouTube.
Because they look like candy. No, I'm talking about a child who doesn't know what it is, Jason. I'm talking about like 5 and under.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one, Gretchen, because my daughter, she's 3 years old, and anything bright colored she thinks is for her, period. Doesn't matter what package it is, anything bright, rainbow colored or anything like that, she wants to tear into it. So I agree with that.
This can go 1,000 layers deep, right? Let's talk about all of these multivitamins that look like gummy bears. Let's talk about that. How many kids are having half of a bottle of these gummy vitamins thinking that they're candy?
And anything sweet should not come in that packaging. Like sugar it promotes obesity, and it is probably linked to way more deaths than anything else in colorful packaging, including cannabis.
Yeah, I just say all of this stuff needs to be kept high enough to where your kids can't reach it, and we wouldn't really be having this problem at all. And it's really just a lack of parenting and a lack of responsibility on behalf of parents by the fact that their kids are getting into this stuff in the first place.
Well, Jason, I think that's a ridiculous statement when people have to put disclaimers on coffee that it's hot so you don't sue them when they burn themselves. I mean, well, I would love for
I agree with that.
To be smart enough to just put their shit higher up. That's not how the real world works.
You guys, if your kid is in the house and you have an open beer sitting on your counter and your child reaches up to that counter to go take a sip of it, what are the first words that come out of your mouth?
Yo, stop. What are you doing?
Not for you.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty easy.
That's not for you. The kids even know around the house before they go pick up a single cup that's mine. Can I have that? Teach your kids boundaries.
Exactly.
Were you the one, Mandy, who told this story? Was it last week that their child ate or drank the wrong beverage in your to-go cup? Was that you?
That was me. And you know what? My daughter and I had a whole conversation about that. She got in big trouble for that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the
Grounded.
day, even if it was alcohol, no matter what.
Did you beat her?
Teach your kid. And also, weed's not going to kill your kids. So why do we keep calling this poisoning? I don't know.
Right.
Overconsumption.
Because
I don't know.
it creates hysteria. It creates hysteria.
That's what it's mean.
Chris Eggers, do you have any thoughts in regards? Do you think that this packaging regulation is more for law enforcement, even though they're using kids as a scapegoat, or what do you think? You're a parent too.
Yes, I'm a parent. I don't disagree with your read on that as a byproduct. I absolutely think that law enforcement is looking for some help in identifying. So I think that that's a byproduct. I don't disagree with your statement or your read there, but it's hard to say what the real motivation is, but it is important that, boundaries are set to Mandy's point, right? And that kids are educated about cannabis, about beer, about wine, about cigars, about cigarettes. I mean, there's a lot to educate our kids about to keep them, safe within our own households as well. And part of that is, kid proofing your home and being responsible, to a bunch of people's points here about how we store not only cannabis, but, I drink a glass of wine at dinner, right? So there's a way to do that as well in a responsible manner when you have kids in the house.
Transparency, guys. Just talk to your kids. Be the first person to teach your children about this. Don't be the last. Right? Like you should be leading the conversation on this. You're not doing anything wrong. Talk to your kids about it.
I think it would be interesting to look at this and compare it to Canada's numbers, with Canada being the ones who took the lead really on kind of no packaging, no marketing, nothing fancy, and look at their child rates going into hospitals or calls to poison control or whatever they do there.
That's a good point, Gretchen.
To see if that's actually made any type of impact. Let's look at the data.
All right. Are you gonna Google that, Gretchen?
No, I ain't got time for that.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're going to keep it moving. We're going to roll right into our feisty redheaded conservative who happens to be wearing her colors today. Oh, yeah. She loves to dress up her dogs, but today she dressed up herself in her patriotic red, white, and blue. That's right. She's the founder of Panoptic Strategies. It is Gretchen Gailey.
I like my shirt. You don't like my shirt?
I love your shirt.
It's what I would have stolen out of Jason Beck's closet.
I love this shirt. Yes.
This actually, I always celebrate patriotism, Rico, because I'm a fine American. This shirt actually comes from a trout team that I helped to support, the Patriots, and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna wear their shirt today because I've never worn the damn thing.
I love it.
But anyway, because trout fishing's good for this country. We should do more of that. All right, let's see here. My headlines coming from Marijuana Moment. House and Senate both moved to keep blocking D.C. marijuana sales, protecting state medical cannabis laws. House and Senate appropriators have approved large-scale annual spending bills that once again include language to protect state medical cannabis programs, as well as a controversial rider to block Washington, D.C. from implementing a system of regulated marijuana sales. The Senate and House Appropriations Committee both held markups of fiscal year 2024 spending legislation for financial services and general government on Thursday. And the Senate panel, as well as House Subcommittee, have also advanced their appropriation measures for commerce, justice, science, and related agencies. Aside from the state medical cannabis and D.C. marijuana sales provisions, House lawmakers rejected a GOP-led amendment to the Chamber FSGG report that would have called on the federal government to take steps to study other state cannabis regulatory models and develop a national legalization framework. Lawmakers have consistently attempted to use appropriation measures as vehicles for cannabis reform with mixed results. Even with Democrats in control of both chambers last session, efforts to expand marijuana protections to all legal states and enact limited cannabis banking reform stalled out, following bicameral negotiations. A rider to protect state medical cannabis programs from federal intervention, meanwhile, has been annually renewed each year since 2014, and appropriators in both both chambers agreed again with this Congress to keep the language intact in their respective base bills as they advance. This bill again contains language preventing the Justice Department from interfering with states that have medical marijuana laws, ensuring that the prescribing and dispensing of medical marijuana in those states is both legal and regulated. Patients and doctors in states that have approved medical marijuana need to know that they are safe from arrest and prosecution by the federal government, according to the Senate panel. To the disappointment of reform advocates, both the Democratic-controlled Senate and GOP House also maintain a rider in their respective bills that's long blocked the District of Columbia from using its local tax dollars to enact a system of regulated adult-use marijuana sales, despite voters in the district approving legalization of possession and home cultivation at the ballot in 2014. President Joe Biden's fiscal year 2024 budget request that he released in March also maintained the D.C. rider for the third year in a row. Separately, while the House under Democratic control has twice added language in prior CJS spending bills that sought to expand protections against Justice Department interference in all state and tribal adult use marijuana programs, the chamber did not include that provision in the base bill that advanced through some subcommittee on Friday now that the Republicans are in charge. The reform also did not appear in the Democratic Senate version that advanced on Thursday, and no members offered amendments to the matter. Also, neither side attempted to add language to the FSGG bill to protect financial institutions from being penalized by federal regulators simply for working with state legal marijuana businesses. The House has passed limited appropriations legislation that would prevent the use of Treasury Department funds to punish banks that service the industry, but it has never been included in the final package. Meanwhile, the much more robust standalone Safe Banking Act is currently sitting in legislative limbo, as Senate Democrats and Republicans spar over a single section on banking industry regulations. Both House and Senate appropriators also maintained a long-standing rider in their new CJS base bills that safeguards state hemp programs from federal interference. I could keep going, but basically, they've done the DC two-step, told DC, go fuck yourselves when it comes to legalization. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Are they not just making a better case for DC to go hard into statehood?
No.
Here? Like, they are legitimately just like not giving them rights.
Well, they've denied DC of rights for many years.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you expect the city to go even harder in their march and their fight for statehood. If you're not going to, they're not going to get statehood.
Not a chance.
If you want to just throw your money away at a political campaign that's going to go nowhere, sure. Go
exactly.
for DC statehood.
Why will it go nowhere?
Because you need 2/3 to go along with that. 2/3 are never going to go along with that.
Exactly.
It ain't happening.
Yeah, not a chance.
Especially when the current political state of this country is so 50-50. It'd be one thing if one of the parties was ahead by like 70 seats or something. Then you can make the fight for it. But when it's this close, they are not going to bring in another state, which is most likely leaning Democratic. I forget what, I think 81% voted for Joe Biden in the last presidential election.
Yep.
They are not going to go for a state that leans so far to one side or the other to come into play. Not happening.
That's right.
It's been a while since I've lived down there, Gretchen. I know you live in the DC area. With the massive expansion of Washington and like all these government and the big government jobs and all that shit, is DC more white now than it was 20 years ago?
I do not know of the demographic breakdown of DC.
I actually saw a demographic. I saw a demographic breakdown of DC the other day, and it actually is 50-50 amongst whites and blacks.
Well, we can easily Google.
Oh, now you can Google all of a sudden, Gretchen.
This is easy. You want me to do a deep dive into Canadian children's poisoning?
All of a sudden, Gretchen knows how to Google. I'm impressed.
I don't see Jason Beck doing much Googling.
No, I know I'm not a good Googler. I know this. Okay.
It says here, as of 2021, white is what they're calling non-Hispanic whites being 59.3% of the population. Hispanic and Latino at 18.9%. And what is this? Is this DC or is this the U.S.? Black Americans are 12.6. That's not true.
That's not real.
Hold on.
That's fake news right there, Gretchen.
Well, you always love fake news, Jason Beck. Every time. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to find out the demographics.
Well, she's going to get the
It would be
demographics.
interesting to see if there is more movement towards that, or more empathy towards the statehood movement if there's more white citizens.
They don't need the empathy of DC voters, Rico. That's my point. They don't get to make the decision on whether or not they become a state. It's Congress.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and Congress tends to go more towards, just frankly saying it, more towards white initiatives that are being pushed forward by white constituents.
Well, you're crazy.
Jeez.
So as of now, easy. I'm giving you numbers. Okay, numbers.
All right.
White numbers 37.96, black 40.91%.
See,
there's your answer.
That's like 50-50.
You think because there's more black people here, that's why it's not happening?
Yes.
You're crazy. That
is ridiculous, Rico.
Yes.
The reason is because pretend they made DC a state that gives you 2 more Senate seats that are going to go Democratic. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's zero chance that
happens. 2 more
happens.
seats to Dems.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not even a reality. Not even a reality. You guys can keep on dreaming. We're going to keep it going right into a commercial. We'll be right back.
DC deserves statehood.
No, it doesn't.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. Also, too, make sure that you are subscribed to our channel in case you haven't. And also, too, you can check out our website. Tons of merch, tons of interesting stuff, tons of articles for you to read through. And with that, we're going to go to our next commercial.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, you need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
He's a fellow dope dad and former Northern California cop who's now a security consultant at CC Security Solutions and making sure that you guys stay safe. Chris Eggers, what you got for us today, my man?
Rico Lamitte, happy Monday morning to all my correspondents, everybody listening. My article today comes out of Washoe County, specifically out of the Nevada Independent. Washoe takes prohibitionist approach to cannabis lounges. So marijuana might be legal in Nevada, but that doesn't mean that elected officials are ready to treat the industry as a legitimate sector of our economy just yet. Washoe County commissioners recently voted against allowing cannabis consumption lounges to operate in its unincorporated parts, demonstrating just how difficult entrepreneurial progress often is for an industry long targeted by drug warriors, social scolds, and prohibitionists of all stripes, says this article. As the Nevada Independent reported last week, the vote means that cannabis won't be able to move forward with plans to open in northern Nevada's only lounge where adults would have been allowed to consume cannabis products on site. The vote is a setback for more than just one cannabis company. It's a setback for the entire industry, as it's demonstrated the headwinds faced by cannabis operators who have long struggled to escape the cultural clutches of the nation's failed war on drugs. So this article even goes down to talk about how things are done down in Las Vegas, which is the southern part of the state of Nevada, Washoe County being the northern part where Reno's located. Even in the city of Las Vegas, would-be lounge operators have faced political prejudice against their business models and products. Earlier this year, for example, Las Vegas city officials effectively dashed all of the hopes of a cannabis district downtown by adopting a plethora of regulatory requirements that require lounges to be located a minimum distance away from churches, parks, casinos, and even other lounges. Now, down further in this article, I found it interesting because one of the points that was made specifically to cannabis lounges was its access to public transportation because of a growing concern from law enforcement, specifically about impaired driving. And that's not to say, according to this article, I'm going to further read more. It says that that's not to say that there aren't legitimate public safety concerns related to the consumption of cannabis in Washoe County or elsewhere in the state. However, pushing the consumption of marijuana back underground through regulations and outright prohibition does nothing to alleviate those concerns. So here we are again talking about the consumption of cannabis lounges, access to cannabis lounges, and all of the other various regulations that are placed on them that are not by other industries. So wanted to share that this morning on this beautiful Monday morning. Thanks for allowing me to contribute. My name is Chris Eggers for High at 9 News Hour.
Oh man, no lounges.
Specifically, I mean, how would bars be affected? How would casinos be affected if they were not closer to predetermined routes with respect to public transportation? That was an interesting point I thought this article brought up.
Mm-hmm. In regards to the proximity to exits, is that what you're saying, Chris?
No, they're saying that this article references one of the concerns put out by people who do not want cannabis lounges is that they need to be placed near public transportation routes because of the consumption aspect and the potential for impaired driving.
I mean, I think that's kind of like a little bit outdated when most people use Uber for their type of transportation as opposed to the city bus.
Oh, there's plenty of drunk people getting on subways at night, Jason Beck. What are you talking
Yeah, but
about?
there's no subway in Reno, Gretchen.
Well, then they get on the bus out there.
Yeah, it's a bus. It's pretty rural out there. It's like there is no bus. They probably got some taxi cabs too. You know what I mean? But there is no train in Reno.
Maybe they should get one with their marijuana tax dollars.
Hey, it's better than going to the law enforcement, right?
Hallelujah.
Okay, I mean, I can agree with that. I can agree with that statement.
Chris,
But-
does it go more into their reasoning of why they went this way?
Not really. It doesn't. Not really, Gretchen. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of different arguments, and again, I don't think there's one clear answer. But that was one of the main arguments here was access to public transportation, and pushing these consumption lounges to areas where there's more accessible public transportation because of consumption concerns. But we don't do that with casinos or bars, and Nevada is not the poster child for
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Not, this is just so crazy to me. So crazy to me that this is the reason that they're pushing back on this.
Hey, save the children.
Yeah, save the children. Oh, and we want to thank Leah Patrick. She says thanks everyone at High at 9 News with a big super chat coming in strong today. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. Sounds so fun over there, Rico.
That's me.
Yeah. Oh man. You have any thoughts on this? Anyone else have any thoughts on this? All right, seeing no. We're gonna go to our final commercial. We don't have no more commercials. We're all done with commercials, Adam. Okay, all right, we're all done with commercials, and we're gonna go right on into Manndie Tingler. She's the mom with a plan who loves to show people how being an executive, Emerald Cup edibles judge, and motherhood all go hand in hand with an executive lifestyle. Oh yeah, coming up next it is Manndie Tingler.
That's a fun one. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I've got a fun one for you. Anybody like weed and weddings? Well, a Waterford couple won a $40,000 weed wedding, complete with pot-infused food for 50 guests. It says, Danielle Geralds and Niall Hunt III, a Waterford couple whose storybook romance, personal struggles, and mutual passion for normalizing marijuana earned them the nuptials of a lifetime. $40,000 all expense paid weed wedding, complete with pot-infused food for up to 50 guests and a top shelf bud bar and marijuana leaves to throw in lieu of rice. Bride's bouquet will also have cannabis leaves mixed in. So will the floral centerpieces. And the groom, a decorated Navy veteran, plans to wear a forest green suit, a color to match the plant that helped him heal physically and emotionally from the injuries he sustained in a 2010 bomb blast in Afghanistan. It's the same plant that helped his bride and their family members endure the ails of all sorts, like cancer, anxieties, and hip replacement and appetite issues. He said that they're the poster children for trying to normalize pot. Soon to be newlyweds also use marijuana recreationally. We could be the best poster children for trying to normalize pot, and that's what they're trying to do here, Gerald said of her statement wedding. It should be just as widely acceptable as going to the liquor store to get a six-pack, she said, noting that the vast majority of her wedding guests also use marijuana. There's going to be a good buzz, she said at her wedding, noting everything will be heavily labeled. There will be plenty of signage. The wedding is October 5th, with the ceremony to occur at the place that made this all happen, the greenhouse of Walled Lake. You guys, this couple entered this competition at this dispensary. Has had some really creative ways of advertising and marketing their promotional events. They do cool events like Super Bowl specials, and they give deals to people who come in their jerseys. And this wedding experience is just another layer of ways that they get customers to come in and be a part of their shop. What's really exciting about this couple is that they actually had a 9-year-long love story, and it's all suddenly ending with a really wonderful weed wedding. So these nuptials are definitely going to be a unique experience. I think somebody should go out there and cover this live in Michigan in October, Jason. And this is Manndie Tingler, aka Carmen Sacramento, coming at you live on Monday morning for High at 9 News. Who wants to go to this weed wedding in Michigan with me?
I mean, they're only allowed to have 50 people there. I don't think you're going to get an invite.
I love a good wedding, and I won't consume, so I'll just take it in. I don't have to.
Right? You'll meet me there, Gretchen. You'll be my date.
Yeah, sure. What the hell? Michigan's not that far away.
Oh,
I like
man.
it. I like it.
I mean, isn't $40,000 not a lot of money for a wedding?
I mean,
Ain't bad.
In California, it would not be much for a wedding out here. I think that.
But mind you, it's only for 50.
I thought you need like a $250,000 for like a real wedding.
Depends on where you're having a wedding.
Depends where you're having the wedding. For 50 people, it's a decent amount, but also.
Plus, we're talking Michigan.
Perhaps are a little bit more affordable. I'm not sure. California, it wouldn't be much.
I mean, this ain't no Jason Beck wedding where, Trump is flying in and the
PJs for everybody.
PJs, yeah.
Trump descending from a helicopter.
But all jokes aside, this topic of weed at weddings is actually something that I get really excited about because alcohol consumption is at a very high rate at most weddings, right? I mean, how has anybody ever been invited to a dry wedding?
Drama.
You're like, terrible.
Who would go to that?
Really?
Who would go to that?
Right? But weed at weddings.
We're always tailgating in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's what the bathrooms are for.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Manndie. I love this idea. I love the marketing behind this dispensary, putting this together. I think this is a great idea. I think more should be into it. If I ever have the wonderful opportunity to walk down the aisle, although no man can contain me, I would say I would love to have weed at my wedding for my guests who are of the ilk to want to consume. I won't consume, but I would have no trouble having a cannabis bar or some sort, dab bar, whatever at my wedding. Knock yourselves out. Go for it, especially if someone else is paying for it.
Your dad would be paying for it, Gretchen.
Yeah.
Clearly, you haven't met my father, but that's another story for another time.
Oh, maybe that's
Jack.
Yeah.
His smart father.
Do dads still pay for weddings?
Yeah, they do.
My shit came out of my pocket.
Yeah, dads definitely still pay for weddings.
My wedding party favors, you better believe, are going to be all kinds of weed.
They're going to be real party favors, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I wonder if this weed was all just like trap weed that they're having at this event, or if because it's not on metric. Just saying.
Definitely not on metric. They're throwing it in the air like rice.
Yep, exactly.
I can just smell the party guests like crawling on the ground with bags trying to gather it all up.
Well, not that Jason ever is trying to make a real point, but that is a question I would have.
Yeah, see?
Is that a concern for a store just giving away $40,000 worth of weed to
No,
just
because you
random?
can give
There ain't no
weed,
store giving away $40,000 worth of weed. Yeah,
All
right.
Just asking,
No.
just asking.
Yeah, right.
Just
This is
have
all
a
trap.
helicopter fly by and dump a whole big bucket out the window. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, this is all trap weed for sure.
Make it rain.
Oh, and Gretchen, I don't know if you saw this in the chat, but Nick Bradley said he would never try to contain you.
Oh, dear.
Is that High Nine's very first proposal?
I don't know.
I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. But, and Nick, you would not have a chance in hell of containing me.
Oh, man.
I love it. I want to plan that wedding.
Gotta use the lasso, brother.
So, good Lord.
Oh, boy.
Says the man from Northwestern.
Uh-huh. Oh, man, that sounds like a whole new ESPN interview right there, Rico.
There you go.
Oh, man, let's roll into the Count himself.
All right, up next, he is the merriest of all merry men somewhere on the astral plane, and we're glad to have him back on Earth with us in a sane position. And it seems like he's not as psychedelic as usual, but I hope he's up to it. He is the man, the co-host of the What's Good podcast. Come to the stage next, Mathieu St. Germain.
Greetings, y'all. Happy Monday. I'm a little low energy because I spent the entire weekend at Northern Nights Music Festival getting high as I could be at this great festival with all my friends up in the woods of Humboldt. I have a pretty disturbing story, too, so it's kind of just a maudlin Monday. Another employee has died in a manufacturing facility, this time in Rock Island. This comes from Weed Week. It starts with a press statement from Green Thumb Industries that says, "It is with great sadness that we confirm the passing of an employee at our Rock Island, Illinois facility. Deepest condolences go out to her family, Green Thumb. We're working to confirm the details surrounding this tragic event. However, we have no reason to believe it was related to the work environment. We're focused on supporting our team members and the family during this difficult time." Her name has not yet been revealed, but according to testimony from another employee, she was about 60 years old and had recently changed position within the company from desk work to manufacturing. Another employee said that while working in the production area, he himself had been having coughing fits. Added that he received a very threatening call from the company's HR executive after posting the news of this tragic event on social media sites. News comes on the heels of Teamsters Local 777 filing additional unfair labor practice charges against Green Thumb Industries, company of Verizon dispensaries. Charges came after workers embarked on the longest ULP strike at the cannabis retailer industry. Rock Island factory is not yet union. And to Alex Suarez, who is a cannabis business agent with Teamsters Local 777, the deceased worker also had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease known as COPD. Rock Island County Coroner Brian Gustafson told Weed Week that the case is being investigated as a natural death and not related to the work environment. Fortunately, this is not the first incident of this kind in the cannabis industry. Last year, Lorna McMurray tragically died at the age of 27 at a Truly facility in January 2022, also the manufacturing section. The report filed by the Occupational Safety Health Administration, Murray complained that she couldn't breathe, presumably due to the cannabis dust in the air where she was grinding and packaging pre-rolls. Taken to a local hospital where she died shortly thereafter. And another thing the article goes on to say is a lot of these workers are not being provided with any type of respirators while they're grinding up, pounds and pounds, tens of pounds, hundreds of pounds of cannabis, which is just putting tons of dust in the air. That's definitely a hazard. And I'm just really interested to say what you guys think about this. And are we going to see more health regulations entering into the cannabis manufacturing packaging space? This is a slightly scrambled Mathieu St. Germain for the High at 9 News on a Monday.
Slightly scrambled, huh?
I'm fine. I'm just fucking around.
Slightly scrambled.
I mean,
St. Germain, it says OSHA's not involved, no one's involved.
OSHA,
Because they're not treating this as a workplace death.
Correct. So once the coroner's report comes out, then if something when that changed, then OSHA probably.
Why aren't they treating this as a workplace death if the person died on the workplace?
That's a great question. And
Did she actually die in the workplace?
The article did not say.
Regulators.
I don't know. I think that's a union job right there.
I mean, I think there's a lot of questions here that still have to be answered before
Right.
GTI
It's
is
sad.
really
It's very
taking a
sad.
task.
It is
Have
very
you
sad.
seen those big those big grinders that are like
Yeah, big
as big
cylinders.
as like
yeah.
a keg of beer, creating a huge amount of just dust and particulates, and or what that dust and particulate is made of. It's made of sawdust, cannabis dust, or grindings. Like none of that stuff is going to be good for getting into your lungs. I think a lot of people just never really even considered this. You know,
What about all the powder mold on their weed, bro?
Also not good.
Yeah.
But we also don't know what she was doing yet, correct?
It said that she had moved into manufacturing.
That's kind of
So
broad, though, isn't that?
yes, ma'am, it is. She could be making hash. She could be doing pre-rolls.
She could be packing boxes for all we know.
Yes, that part's true too.
If how much do we need, from Lorna McMurray and then this death as well? Like, how much do we need to say that, you need to be protecting these workers, especially in spaces with industrial trimming?
And hold on, where's the unions at? Okay, in this conversation,
That is a non-union facility.
that is a non-union facility.
So another non-union facility has another death. It's correlation right there.
I smell something fishy.
Well, I would just say this is another example of why unions are not a bad thing.
Yeah, they're not a bad thing.
I didn't say unions are a bad thing. They're just overpriced for what you get out of them.
It's a good wake-up call for everybody who does manufacturing, pre-roll manufacturing, and these type of things to really examine their workplace and focus on the health of their employees.
Yeah, like
if you're working in a place like that, and they don't offer any kind of union protection, maybe you should think twice about working at those facilities.
And
Do you even know what kind of equipment is required, like in wood mill facilities, as far as respirators or anything like that? I really don't. I have no idea.
The sawmill.
Sawmill. They just wear those little white masks like everybody did during COVID.
N95.
No, not the N95. Just the regular painter mask. Just the regular painter one, the cheap ones.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And most of them are outdoors too, right?
Yeah. Most of it is all outdoors. Yeah.
I would think a lot of stuff in a lumber mill at this point in time is automated. I don't know how much of it's really a worker sitting there sucking up dust the whole time, though.
I mean, maybe.
I think this is I think we need a lot more answers from investigators as to what caused this woman's death. I think we also need to know what part of the facility she was working in. Do we know what's done in this facility? Is it just pre-roll stuff or what? Do we know anything?
Wasn't a lot of detail, but that other employee did say that when he was in the same area, he was having coughing fits after working there for a week.
Did he say he worked with her in that area?
Oh, but he just said he worked in the same area. There, it could be a ventilation.
We still don't know what area that is specifically, right? Like if it's
is what it says.
And do we know if Illinois even requires masks, or do we know anything? I think it's hard for us to.
Illinois is a big.
Mostly clueless. I was eating LSD in the weekend, in the woods all weekend. So
I get it. I just mean in the actual cannabis regs, if they have rules about.
I don't think Illinois is a big union state. This is surprising that it would happen there.
Nick Bradley is saying in the chat. He's saying that they're saying that she had COPD. And that's why it's not a work-related incident.
If she had COPD, she'd be even more vulnerable to dust. And
if she had COPD, they shouldn't have put her. They shouldn't have put her on the trimmer. They shouldn't have put her anywhere near that.
Shouldn't have been there at all.
Did she disclose that to her employer that she had COPD? Who knows? I mean, there's so many questions that need to be answered.
Yes, lots of questions, and we'll get down to the bottom of it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And Lorna McMurray out in Holyoke, Massachusetts, had zero history of any respiratory problems, and she ended up dying.
Didn't masks require masks, Rico?
Were you giving them the COVID masks?
Anything?
Weren't giving them respirators.
Yeah, no respirators.
She ended up, after complaining for weeks of having respiratory issues, she ended up using her dad's. Because her dad works in a union factory, using her dad's N95 mask, but they did not require any of that stuff.
It's a sad story overall.
I know we don't want to regulate anything ever in this industry, but people really need to look at safety and perhaps this is why we need federal legalization. I'm sorry, but you need the feds to step in and tell them how to run this shit.
Does anyone find it interesting that the only cannabis deaths that have happened in facilities since the start of legalization all happened in MSO facilities.
Yeah. Not just MSO facilities.
It's not surprising to me.
Major giants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that because of the production and what is acquired over other facilities?
They care more about.
Are they pumping out more inventory? Is my question than a smaller guy.
Volume.
I don't know. I don't know.
Of scale as well as
I
less.
would say that that's probably a safe bet to make.
I think that could be up for debate. I think it's going to depend on what state. Like if you were talking about Florida, then I would say yes. But if we're talking about Massachusetts, I would say no.
Well, if there's anyone in our chat who knows more about safety regs in the industry, it'd be good to know if any state requires masking or anything for workers in their facilities. Please hit us up and hit what's the contact email, Jason Beck?
Tips
that they can hit
at High at 9 News.
There
Just
you go.
the tips.
Yeah,
At
just
High
the
9
tips. Yeah, TIPS
Yeah.
at HIGHAT, the number 9 and news.com.
At this point, it's time to wrap it up. So Rico Lamitte,
It
take
is.
home.
Tips with the Z.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sue us, Bo Wrigley.
Yeah.
Mama said
Thank
another
you
time.
all.
And Nick says every state has OSHA requirements, Gretchen. Every single state.
I understand that. I'm asking about the masking. If Nick can inform us, I would appreciate it.
Oh, look at Nick. She would appreciate you, Nick.
Oh, good Lord. Come on, let's go.
Nick will wear any mask you want him to. Thank you all for joining us today for another episode of High 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans showing love and getting their comments projected live on the big screen. Also to the audience members and online supporters catching us across all media platforms live, tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of your perspective and your respected opinions to the table. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, The Vortex, all of our sponsors helping us keep the lights on, keeping our AV struggles to a minimum, and of course, the lovely Jaja Simone helping us out on all the other platforms. To the haters out there, keep on hating, keep on hating, keep on hating. I'm going to keep on loving. I love you. Remember that from the heart, from the bottom of my heart. And always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason that the High 9 News team shows up to read these stories every day. Thank you. It has been Monday, July 17th, 2023. The show's over, and you've all been blessed with today's top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. Manndie Tingler, what you got for us? I'm going to take these beautiful people out today.
Make it a marvelous Monday, everybody. Go out, give somebody a hug, and make some money.
Manndie Monday.
Yeah, secure the bag.